Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Whole Health Weekly. I apologize. I was on such a roll, man. I had 44 weeks in a row, and I had to miss because of robotics that I do. I do this middle school robotics stuff that's pretty fun. Last week was our first competition, and it was a touch and go there for a minute. You got to build this robot out. For those that don't know, a lot of times in robotics is like a kind of a mix of an athletic event. In a sense, it's like a competition, I always use a wrestling match, but you use robots to do it, and it's super addictive. But one of the things is you always have a challenge, and you got to build the robot to do that. And I've loved it for a few reasons. One, I think it gives kids an opportunity and a challenge to do something beyond, just going to school and turning things in. And so I've always liked that, because life is like that. It's something you work on all the time. You constantly are thinking, how do you build a business? How do you build a career? All of those things. And I think robotics kind of does that in this little robotic sort of way. And so wish us luck next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend is our next competition. So we took 12th, which we didn't even think we'd place. So that was pretty awesome, which I absolutely adored. It was really fun and exciting to see these kids do pretty successful with not much time. Because as you can tell, I'm a chiropractor, not an engineer. So these kids are kind of in trouble from the get-go. So I tell the kids, guys, you're kind of in trouble already. You got a chiropractor as your coach. That's a problem from the get-go because everybody else has engineers and people that have worked on robots before. So I've been doing it a long time now. So we're getting pretty good at it, So we did really good last year. So we're hoping we can match it up or just have a blast. So either one of those two is what we're after. Not really after like a prize, like a huge prize, but last year we did really good. We were like, I want to say we were like third in the state or something, but it depends on where we're at and all the stuff. There's a lot of robots out there. So with that said, I apologize for last week for missing Whole Health Weekly. It's super sad. I love doing this, so I like being consistent on it as well. So with that said, I'd like to make sure that if you are watching currently, I want to make sure you go follow us on my Rumble channel. I'm up to 69 people, which is amazing. That's where you can get the recordings if you forget or you got other things going on, or there's a topic that maybe you got to re-listen to the video a couple times to get what you need out of there. Rumble, it's the prize inside a chiropractor's journey. That's where it's at on Rumble. And I will put the Rumble link in the chat. Here we go. All right. So we got that one. And then in the chat, we'll go our YouTube channel, which is the prize inside you. That's what that one's called. And then that's an @ oops. All right. Sorry. Okay. We'll put that one in there. The other one that I really push is our podcast. So the podcast is where I fell in love because it's super easy to listen. And hopefully, we get in there. If you look up the podcast on Spotify, any of the big players, the prize inside a chiropractor's journey, you'll find it there. So those are all the recording areas. And then the last thing is called tribe1.substack.com. Tribe1.substack.com is where you can get on my email list. And that one is not a big email list, but it gets you knowing when I'm going live or not. And then sometimes we'll do little cool videos and, those kind of things. Okay. So I just wanted to put those out there. And so with that said, let's begin. So usually I always start this on Wednesday night with a chiropractic quote. And I found a pretty good one. It's not really a chiropractic quote, but it has a lot of chiropractic meaning to it. It's by Hippocrates. So this is how old this is. And a lot of us chiropractors understand this is kind of where the thought process comes. Many thought like 1,000 years ago. This is what Hippocrates says. The greatest medicine is to teach people how not to need it. The greatest medicine is to teach people how not to need it. That's pretty awesome. That's the holistic paradigm, right? We want to try to get this body working so well, the innate intelligence of this body working absolutely fantastic to the point where we don't need a lot of these things, right? We can have the body heal itself. And that's what it's all about. It always has been. And once we crack that code, and that's what I'm hoping, we keep that journey. It's part of who we are. We keep looking for those new and great, latest and greatest. Because once people start understanding and learning, a lot of times you start understanding it each and every time. And there's so much to learn. So it's really, really cool. I learn something new every day. So that's really cool. Usually, hello, Julie. Oh, you are cool. Are you doing it in the area? Oh yeah, we talked about it. Yes. I've taken an herbal class. That is the fantastic piece. So Julie's taking an herbal class on Sunday. One of the neatest things is just kind of soak it in. You don't need to know everything. And that's what's so neat about herbals. Remember, not a lot of these people that were really good at medicine in the way back when knew anything. Nature kind of showed them the way, right? Raspberry kind of looks like a heart, also looks like a uterus. So look at that. It's kind of good for both. Huh. Always interesting. Walnuts are good for the brain. They kind of look like a walnut. And Hastings. Oh, very cool. So Hastings, Michigan has some. Let me know how that goes. I'm really curious, like how those herbal classes go. I love poking around on that stuff. So But yeah, so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk a little bit. Gina, my office manager, got me a topic tonight that's very interesting. And if you've been with me on a lot of these whole health weeklies, we've talked about a lot of these different natural supplements that kind of replace a body's process, right? So we want to be careful about things that do that. And melatonin has been known for one of those things. So she sent me the article actually on this one. So long-term use, so we're going to read it because it's from the heart.gov, okay, or heart.org. And she saw this on as an article. So I'm just going to read off my phone instead of my computer. So this says long-term use of melatonin supplements to support sleep may have negative health effects. And this is from the American Heart Association. A 5-year review of health records of more than 130,000 of adults with insomnia who have used melatonin for at least a year found they were more likely to be diagnosed with heart problems or heart failure, required hospitalizations for the conditions, or die from any cause. Wow, that's pretty intense. The association between melatonin and increased risk of heart failure or death found in this study, which cannot prove a cause and effect relationship, raises safety concerns about the use of melatonin, which is widely available and may warrant more research on melatonin to assist its cardiovascular safety, researchers said. Now, when I see this, especially in medical journals, I always want you to be careful. I don't want you to make out these are the same people that tried to take resveratrol off the market and kind of resveratrol is the compound that allows that, you know how they say wine and grapes are good for your heart, right? Well, it's the resveratrol in the grape that is good for your heart. It's not necessarily the wine, but that was one of the reasons it was there. It's so good for your heart, in fact, that some medical drug companies were trying to get it off the regular shelves, which was very concerning. This is about 10 years ago. Very makes holistic people very ticked off when we were talking about it, because they were actually literally thinking about taking it off the market and try to make it a prescription, which is unheard of and dumb. So a lot of times when you see an article, you just got to be careful, right? That's what Whole Health Weekly is all about, is not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So melatonin, very common, been around a long time, but we've warned what happens over time in long-term use of melatonin. What happens? Melatonin's a hormone, that hormone that your body actually produces. When our body produces this melatonin, it allows you to go to sleep. If you give your body things that are produced by your body is smart, right? It's innately a genius. So it will say, oh, you're already making melatonin. So because you're making melatonin, I'm going to stop making melatonin and do something else. I'll put my resources to something different. And that's where you can get basically addicted to melatonin. And then all of a sudden, people have to start taking melatonin on a regular basis. Many supplements are like that out there, and a lot of them in the mainstream. Creatine's another one that your body produces. If you take it on a regular basis, your body will start saying, oh, you don't want me to make creatine. I'll stop producing it, right? And that's a big issue. Okay. So we want to make sure all of those types of supplementations, digestive enzymes is another really big one. People take these digestive enzymes, but what happens to your body producing digestive enzymes? They'll stop making them, right? Because your body goes, oh, you're making that digestive enzyme, so what's the point of me making it? Melatonin is no different. And because of that, you can have major issues that can pop up. So just be mindful of that. Like I would say, like with melatonin, like we've talked about, there's research out there that says it's really good when you're older to use melatonin in, let's say, short spurts, but not all the time. let's say it's not as bad. Now with a kid, we already know we really don't want to be taking melatonin at all, because melatonin as a child, if you can possibly help it, they will go to sleep. It initiates the sleep, but then what happens is their brain stops making it because they're so young, and they adapt really fast. So then they become more addictive to having to have it to go to sleep. So we want to make sure we don't do it on young people for a really long time at all. My adults, they don't produce as much melatonin, so you can get away with having it. Just make sure, like in everything, you don't want to have to take it every day, if that makes sense. So that's a good article that Gina found. Sorry, I got robotics class, and I have to talk a lot. So by the end of the day and at night, I'm like, got no voice left. But yeah, so remember that as we go into melatonin, that will be critical as we go. And so because of that one, let's go into what the health topics this week are. So what is on social media and the mainstream media? All right. Okay. And this is going to be a thing. Affordable Care Act. So open enrollment challenges. This is one of the key things in health in general. So enrollment began November 1st, but many face staggering premium hikes, like $500 plus monthly in some states due to expired subsidies and congressional stalemate. Experts urge delays in signing up until resolutions. Medicare enrollment is between October 15th and December 7th, also seeing rising deductibles and costs. One of the biggest problems with our healthcare is, always remember, it's really designed as a sick care model. We're seeing it kind of break in real time because we're not really taking care of ourselves. Our functional ability to start to understand health, we're behind the 8 ball essentially. And so what happens is because we do this thing where we see a doctor when we're sick, that psychology is now caught up to us. But the cool part of this whole thing is that people are getting wiser. They're getting a lot wiser. And if healthcare costs keep rising, there's going to be a point where, the old adage of there wasn't any health insurance and you just went to the doctor and, you paid cash, basically. I don't know if that will actually happen. The way the healthcare system seems to be going is kind of in that ballpark. So I don't know where we're going to end up with that. My hardest part is like with politics, I try not to get too politically throwing around in here. My problem is like I've always heard this comedian once say poly means many and ticks is blood-sucking insects. So until they quit lying and grandstanding and doing all this stuff, just do stuff for the people. You get voted in. What's the problem with the dramatics? You know what I mean? It's pretty obvious what needs to be changed. If I wanted to go into the political side of the world, it'd be very easy. I could be on here for another 2 hours, easy. Just in thought process. One of the things that always bothers me, though, in a government shutdown, though, why doesn't the Congress? Would they still get their paycheck? That makes zero sense. I think that would be the first thing I'd run on. I'd run on making sure that the first people that would lose a paycheck are the dummies that can't get together and figure stuff out. I would say maybe the people that caused the problem should be the first one not to get a paycheck. That would be glorious. And, I got this other idea for politics. How about you stay in the place that you're located? In other words, instead of going to Washington, D.C., where you can get, bribed or blackmailed or whatever happens down there, why don't you stay in the district that you're in, 365 days a week, and you zoom into Washington, D.C.? Maybe that would help a lot of these different situations versus these people, they get elected, and then they go down to a different location where they don't have to look at the faces of the people that they are not doing the job for. So that's me on a pedestal. I apologize for the political part, but that is how that rolls. Okay, so remember that Affordable Care Act is going to be more critical than ever to start living your life, start increasing your health, understanding your health, and going in every day doing something towards health and longevity of your body. Because if you can do that, a lot of times your health, the health premiums of taking care of yourself is they're unlimited. It's priceless. Taking care of yourself every single day allows some cells of your body to improve every single day. You can't buy that. Ask the billionaires. I tell people Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is a great example. Billionaire, died early. He was so busy working, maybe he didn't take care of himself as well. And those are the kind of things that you want to make sure you think about. What's the most important? What's the most priceless thing? Is it money? No, it's your health. And we have to start doing that. Healthcare versus sick care. It's your choice. You just have to make it. Okay. All right. Sorry. That was a way big soapbox. All right. Let us go to. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Daylight savings time. We've talked about this before. So daylight savings times happened. It actually is linked to heart conditions, which you wouldn't believe, and sleep disruption. Uh-oh. My dog's going a little nuts, so I apologize. Hang on. So stay right there. Oh, no, Rosie's good. So in daylight savings time, a lot of times there is actual medical literature. I apologize. You stay right here for me. Okay, sorry about that. Rosie's having issues. I'm getting attacked. I don't know what's happening. Okay, so anyway, we're back. Rosie is staved off the enemy, whatever that was. Okay, so with the daylight savings time, it actually is linked to heart conditions because of the sleep distribution or the sleep deprivation part. So remember that as we go, making sure you get good rest, balancing yourself, taking your time to actually change that thing. Okay, if anybody's out there could tell me why they started daylight savings time. We had one of my patients and I had a good back and forth because I don't think he's right, but he could be. I always thought daylight savings times had something to do with farming, right? You got more sunlight or more that time to farm, right? My patient said it was something about kids in New York going to the school bus where could have been hurt or attacked or something like that. So I always thought that was interesting if anybody's actually understood why, because we've only had it for 60 years, and changing the daylight savings time seems a little overkill that we probably don't need to do, but it is what it is. So remember that it can do some stuff. Oh, here's a good one. Oral health and systemic risks. Long-term studies link poor dental health, cavities, gums disease, to 86% higher stroke risk and overall aging. So that's interesting. One of the things is to take care of your teeth. A lot of times, one of the things, the biggest key is not eating a bunch of sugar. I had to get some my passport pictures redone at Walgreens, and the kid that was helping me, we were getting the picture done, and the day before, some lady came and got two carts full of the old Halloween candy. And I was like, whoa, that's wild. She dumped all like 2 grocery carts full. Now, I wasn't there, so I don't know, what the situation was. Maybe she was giving it away. Maybe she was a teacher. I don't know. But at the same time, all I could think about is how much unhealthy garbage that was in. Like, I get it one night. Okay. Don't eat on that stuff. We know it's all fake sugar, guys. There's not much real in a candy bar anymore. There's not much real in there. So you got to understand, it's a bunch of chemicals that taste really good. They taste like a lot of the things, but until we get to the point where that stuff is real, I maybe it's not the best thing in the world, especially not 2 grocery carts full. So there's that. Oh, here we go. This is interesting. Wow, they brought this up. This is in the mainstream news. Okay. All right. So I got an article for you guys. Let's see where to go. Oh, I can't believe they posted this. This is cool. Okay, so this is November 1st, 2025. And now this is written by Catherine Lang. Antibiotics, which we know, and 6 other medications are linked to disrupted gut microbiome. Huh. If you've listened to the 1% Tribe and the Prize Inside, you know this. The gut microbiome comprising bacteria, fungi, and yeast play a crucial role in human health. Disruption of the microbiome is associated with numerous chronic health conditions. It has long been known that antibiotics affect the gut microbiome, killing both beneficial and pathogenic bacteria. Now, a study has found that other prescription medications also negatively impact the microbiome, and their effects can last sometimes for years after stopping the medication. A recent study has found that many prescription medications have a lasting impact on the gut microbiome, which can persist for several years. The study, published in the American Society for Microbiology, found that in addition to antibiotics, antidepressants, beta blockers, stomach acid reducers, and anti-anxiety drugs, these substances could continue to disrupt the microbiome long after use. That is crazy information. Well, let's read that again. Let's read that again so you guys hear it. This is a study published in the American Society of Microbiology journal. In addition to antibiotics, which we know because antibiotics means anti-life, so you're going to kill off your gut microbiome, right? Not only is antibiotics bad for your gut microbiome, but antidepressants, big one, beta blockers. Beta blockers is a heart medicine. Stomach acid reducers, PPIs, remember protein pump inhibitors? You hear about those. Anti-anxiety drugs. What do you think is the most common thing that I want you to take away from this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're probably, if I had to guess, at least the top 5 medicines that are actually prescribed. At least the top 5. That's insane. So what does that tell you? It tells you if that is happening, well, let's say you have to take whatever. It's not necessarily about that. It's about that. If you take them, it's going to disrupt your gut microbiome. What happens when we do that? We have major issues, right? So that's where it can be a major problem. Okay. So remember that. That's why Rachel and I have just, we started doing a gut microbiome program at the office. So we have been doing that for a long time now, getting really good results because it doesn't take a lot, but you need the guidance. So the biggest thing is understanding all those medicines are really tough on you. Brian, oh, he made it. Hopefully he's got now you got my cell phone now, brother. That'll be good. All right. I like it. That's right. Okay. So remember that because I never thought, okay. So the book I learned this stuff from, the gut microbiome stuff that blew my mind. This is a true story. They wouldn't let that book in. It was the original GAPS diet book. The original GAPS diet book. So if you ever hear the GAPS diet, the lady that wrote it was I think she was a European pediatrician, and she would name the pharmaceutical drugs that were hurting the gut microbiome. And this is many years ago. This isn't like new information. They just kept it from, they did not want that information. You can see how the power of money works, though. In these situations, it's absolutely the power of the money that stops a lot of these situations from happening, regardless. And here's the best part of this stuff. Just like Oxycontin and a lot of these different drugs, if they would have just told people that they're addictive, if when people needed them, if they understood that role, they would do different health things versus ignoring the situation. It's wild. Like sometimes, it's not being anti-medicine. It's knowing what you're putting in your body. Sometimes you need that stuff, right? There's moments you want to live in a world that you have options like that, but not to know that the other option is that your gut microbiome is going to be janked. Does that make sense? Really? Like it's so crazy. It's like ignorance by omission, which is so funny because like you don't want to live in a world with no, let's say, antidepressant or whatever, right? And those are things that you can take. But if you know all the backstory, maybe you do some other things to keep you healthier as you go. Julie says, well, that's true. They didn't want kids. Oh, they didn't want kids were getting on the bus when it was dark. Oh, okay. Here we go. There may have been an incident where kids were hurt because it was dark. They changed the time so kids would be safer. That's what I was wondering. Because because it hasn't been, this one guy said it was about 60 years ago. Isn't that crazy? That is, yeah. So that is the coolest part, so there's always a reason for it, and now, no, kids don't ride the bus hardly. So not in our area anyway. You should see if you go by, if you can tell if people ride the bus anymore, because go by an elementary school sometime in the morning. Every parent's bringing them. How that is possible, I don't know, but that's how it works. So, all right. So that one's cool. So let's go on to. All right. Ooh, here's a good one. Let's see. Here's some social media topics. So let's go into some social media. Actually, yeah. Social media, there's a couple wellness and biohacking trends. There's a big carnivore. Remember the risk factors. There are risks to carnivore if you do it for long term, right? So we want to make sure we're not doing it as a catch-all. Like we don't want it to be the only thing that happens. Okay. So the biggest thing is like when you do carnivore, you do it in chunks, you'll feel really good, but there's no sense in doing it forever because God didn't put, delicious fruits and vegetables on this planet so that we don't eat them. There's got to be a reason, right? And I give you all these herbals. Why? Because the plants of this earth have a ton of stuff for you to, take. So even though I really strongly believe in the carnivore diet, it's not something that you want to stay on for long term forever, right? So there are some people that say that's what you want to stay on. However, the problem is, dark green vegetables are so much in just those that it's not worth doing just the other stuff. Okay. All right. So let's go into. All right. Oh, is it true, Julia? I'm not sure if it's true or not. I will find out though. I will find out if that is true because it's probably very true on the having it night with the dark kid. I'm thinking that was probably it because kids had to get on the bus all the time. All right, so let's go into our next part, which is Dr. Mercola's site. So Dr. Mercola's site is, if you haven't been, get a subscription, go to his website, get on his email list. Some of these are amazing articles, and he'll send you an email once in a while when it's a top story. Okay. And a lot of times you can learn a ton. Dr. Mercola is a medical doctor that kind of flipped over to the holistic side a long time ago. And he's been one of the top, he was the top censored doctor in COVID. Like he was like enemy number 1 or 2 in COVID when we were like, oh, don't teach people about the immune system. Oh my God. Like because that was some kind of crime. But anyway, so let's look at this first article. This one's done by Dr. Mercola. So this is where we kind of walk through these articles and see if you can get something out of it. So artificial sweeteners, which you know what I call it, fake sugar. Artificial sweeteners tied to faster brain aging and decline. Okay. So artificial sweeteners are linked to faster memory loss and linking decline, equal to 1.6 years of extra brain aging. People under 60 who consume the most low or no calorie sweeteners face the steepest drop in verbal fluency and overall cognition, making midlife a key time to cut them out. So what they're saying is so artificial sweeteners is what causes you to have diet Coke or diet whatever, right? There's more in that than actually the ones that say regular, which is crazy, right? So what they're saying is a lot of those are actually worse for you, especially in your brain health. Here's the next part. Adults with diabetes are even at higher risk, with sharper declines in memory and global thinking skills when relying on artificial sweeteners and sugar substitutes. The harmful effects were consistent across years of testing, showing that continued use steadily chips away at brain function. You can protect your brain by eliminating artificial sweeteners, fake sugar, using natural options like fruit, honey, monk fruit, dextrose, and focusing on foods that fuel steady energy. So, as you know, most of these drinks are super addictive, like ridiculously addictive. They're on purpose, they are that way. And artificial sweeteners are to stimulate those parts of your brain, the nervous system, to get you to be more addictive. I push it hard. That don't do this on a regular basis. You can do a pop once in a while or whatever, but to do it on a regular basis is really, really a bad idea. And what does fake sugar do? So we don't just go over them, just say, oh, it's bad for you. Why? Fake sugar. Okay, so let's explain it, right? So how fake sugar works is, think of a little truck, okay? So a little pickup truck, and on the back of that pickup truck is, so in the back of that pickup truck is the sugar molecule that the lab made, okay? So in a lab, the only way to get real sugar into your body, they have to use a pickup truck. In real sugar, it's just the molecule. So it's just the sugar. I'm hoping this makes sense, but it's just the sugar that gets into your body. With a fake sugar, and grown in a lab or chemically processed to get there, they need this truck with the sugar in the back of the truck to get into your body. Once it gets into your body, then the sugar is released and it is burned as energy. Okay. The problem with chemical sugar is that the truck is still there. It's still parked in your body, and your body does not use that truck for anything. So what does it have to think it is? It's an enemy to your body. So what does your immune system do? It attacks it. So what happens to your inflammatory process? It gets inflamed. It gets on fire. It causes joint pain. All of these things give you a 5-alarm fire all your immune system cells are coming in to get rid of these trucks. Hopefully that made sense. As you go, that's why fake sugar is so hard on you. And fake sugar, because it does affect your brain, there's a theory that possibly you get inflammation in the brain as well. Now, that's just a theory that's not actually scientifically proven or anything. But it would make sense because if any of you have ever gotten addicted, myself included, to pop in your past, you will know how addictive that stuff is. And now it's even worse. Like, I mean, it's the drinks they're making now are so full of garbage fake sugar and so full of things that can make your brain really, really want them that it's a challenge. And so just remember that artificial sweeteners, when it says Diet Coke, you're not doing yourself any favors. Okay. No Coke. It's a really good idea. And I don't care if you don't like the taste of water, just suck it down. It's worth it. I promise. Hydration is key. Okay. All right. So that was a pretty good article. I like that. Ooh, I like this. Okay. So this one's kind of interesting for you animal lovers out there. This is by Dr. Joe Mercola. Babies who grow up with dogs have stronger lungs and lower asthma risk. Babies exposed to dog allergens early in life have about 48% lower risk of developing asthma by age 5 and show stronger lung function compared to children raised in pet-free homes. Exposure to dogs helps train your child's immune system, teaching it to tolerate harmless allergens instead of overreacting to them, a key factor in preventing asthma and allergies later in life. That's pretty cool. The protective effects are even greater in children genetically predisposed to poor lung health. So let's say mom and dad have that or had like asthma or something like that, showing that environmental exposure to dogs can offset inherited asthma risks. Children who grow up with female dogs or with multiple dogs in the home have a lower risk of asthma, likely due to reduced exposure to certain allergens and a richer variety of beneficial microbes. Interesting. It says beyond pets, improving indoor air quality, supporting gut and nasal microbiome health, which we've talked about, and reducing toxins like seed oils and electromagnetic frequency exposure helps strengthen your child's immune system and respiratory resilience. So that's kind of cool. One of the things I would say on that topic, think about that with when we talk about good gut microbiome and throwing your kid outside and letting them play outside all day. You play in the dirt, you get introduced to all these cool gut microbiome pieces, all the beneficial stuff. And the beneficial stuff is really, really helpful for building your kid's immune system, right? The more exposure it gets in a nice, safe environment, the better you do it. Cats, dogs. This study was just on dogs, so I'm not sure where the cats line up. So we'll just say dogs for now, but that's very interesting. That a baby getting exposed to a dog, they won't have the asthma or allergy kind of situation. That's pretty cool. So it actually makes sense. When I was growing up, we had dogs. We just they were always outdoor dogs. There was never dogs in the home. And my mom suffered big time with like different allergies all the time, and that's interesting because then we, as our family, all the dogs are inside dogs. And my kids grew up with like not a lot of allergies. When I was growing up, it was a lot of hay fever and those kind of things. I'm a very nasally person, like nasally talking, but I really don't have that many like sinus issues, which is crazy. But my kids also, they don't have too many sinus issues. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of an interesting article. All right. All right. Let's go to this one. This article was done. This one's good. Could this be the hidden culprit? Could this hidden culprit be making you exhausted? So this is an article by who is this? Oh, okay. So this is Dr. Makuri. Okay. I don't think it's by Dr. Marco. Oh, this is analysis. Okay, so he did a video analysis of what this Dr. Makuri is saying. Obesity. Obesity is not caused by lack of exercise, as people in the wealthier nations burn more calories daily, yet still gain more fat. Eating ultra processed foods is strongly linked to higher body fat because they disrupt hunger signals and make calories easier to store. Body fat percentage, not BMI, is the most accurate way to measure obesity related risks. Moderate ultra processed food diets and lower immune demands in industrialized country lower resting energy needs, making fat storage more likely. You can restore your metabolism by removing vegetable oils, eating the right carbs for your gut, reducing estrogen and EMF exposure, and avoiding ultra processed foods. So this article is about obesity has become one of the leading drivers of disease worldwide, claiming over 4 million lives each year. In the US alone, rates have climbed steadily over the past century, transforming a condition once rare into one of the most pressing public health threats. Excessive body fat is not just about appearance, it's tied to a cascade of serious health problems, including type 2 diabetes, heart disease, liver failure, and shortened lifespan. Okay, so why is fatigue in this conversation? One of the biggest reasons that the fatigue aspect is there is because when your body's going through that much stress of being in the obesity category, then you're going to end up having like a reduced amount of energy. But here's what's interesting about that article. Did you notice it was countries that have a lot of stuff? They're richer nations. And the reason is because it's very easy to pay for food. The problem is my richer nations have not demanded that our food is actually good for us. Okay. So all of our fast foods, all of these things, they've tricked us in a sense of not looking at quality of the food, but looking at how it tastes, how good it is, in that sense. So what happens though is because we've went down this chemical rabbit hole of like the most delicious thing we can get that money can buy, it's really, really hurt us in the obesity category. That's why they're saying in nations that are poorer, they don't have a lot of those options where they're eating more meat. They might have their own gardens, right? We don't do a lot of those things. Grocery store, home, right? That's what is a lot of our, major, American diet is all about. And that's one of the problems. That's why we have to get back to the good times, right? We got to get back to doing those things because once we rely just on straight on the grocery store, it's obvious the American diet's not working if we're like the most obese in the world, and we now have pills that can reverse a lot of this stuff, but you didn't change your diet. So that's a problem, right? Yeah, so that's what's interesting is now we can pay our way to a diet, a weight that's good and not change that diet that's still crappy. So just remember that as we go forward. It's the double-edged sword. When you have enough money, sometimes it can cost you just as much. So that article was okay. We'll get into a good one. Ooh, I like this one. Let's talk about this one because this one is kind of an overlooked situation because it's very, very true. And we have to be careful on this one because it's one of those that You're going to hear more about this as it goes. Our mood, this is kind of ahead of its time. This is by Dr. Mercola. Our mood disorders actually metabolic diseases rooted in insulin resistance. Okay. Bipolar disorder and depression affect tens of millions globally. Long treated as strictly brain based illnesses, yet both consistently show higher rates of insulin resistance and metabolic disturbance. So, getting close to like diabetic, that's what insulin resistance essentially is. A 2025 Nature Neuroscience study found that pancreatic insulin release and hippocampal activity are linked through a circadian feedback loop. This suggests, and that's that circadian rhythm sleep feedback loop, right? This suggests bipolar mood shifts arise from disrupted metabolism, not brain chemistry alone. Interesting. We're going to come back to that. Earlier research in 2022 showed lithium stabilizes mood partly by restoring insulin signaling, while a clinical trial found metformin improved both insulin sensitivity and psychiatric symptoms in treatment resistance bipolar depression patients. Insulin resistance is extremely widespread, with around 40% of Americans affected, driven by refined sugar, seed oils, stress, sleep loss, and environmental exposures that disrupt the body's natural energy regulation. Supporting insulin sensitivity involves stepwise changing, replacing damaged fats and ultra-processed foods, introducing gut-friendly carbs, fibers, and gradually managing stress, improving sleep, and staying active to stabilize both metabolic and mental health. So one of the things that you want to key on is when you have these mental disorders, many times you can look it up today. There's a gut brain axis. Okay. The gut and the brain have to work good. Okay. So you have your brain health, your heart health, and your gut health. Those are the three critical areas. If your gut health is off, your mood will be off. You know this just by the words hangry. You know this by hypoglycemic. These are all things that create an emotion, right? It makes a different emotional set point. So if that is true, then you have to know that, like, by fixing things like your gut microbiome, right? Gut microbiome could be a good place to start. A lot of times we can actually take these brain conditions, these depressions and those things, maybe give it some help on top of, like the normal situation. Some people are ultra depressed. One of the problems is maybe we're barking up the wrong tree. Maybe if we got their gut microbiome better, sometimes maybe they'll feel better in their mood. I would suggest they would, right? So it's one of those things. Never think that the pill is the cure. It never is. That's just the symptom reducer. Remember that. You can't ever say cure, really, right? It's a symptom reducer. Okay. So just remember that as we go. And if you know somebody that's suffering with that, maybe, have them talk to us or somebody that can help them with their gut microbiome issues. All right. And we'll do one more tonight. Oh, actually, we'll go to, let's see what we got. We are going to, let's see. Oh, I'm looking for the chiropractic research. All right. All right. Oh, here we go. No, I'm sorry, guys. I'm seeing ones we've gone over. You've heard about the study. I told you guys, but I'll repeat it because wasn't on last week. There was a study that was done with 151,000 veterans, and they found that there was a 40% when they started introducing chiropractic care into one of their treatments that wasn't there before 2016. Really, it was kind of rare in the 2016 timeframe. After 2016, vets were able to get better care, better quality chiropractic stuff, more access to it. Even though the access is still not great, I think they deserve much, much better. They should be able to come into any chiropractic office and get an adjustment whenever. That's my opinion, of course, because I'm a chiropractor. So that can be a thing. But 151,000 vets it is study on. When they introduce chiropractic care on a regular basis, there's a 40% reduction in opioid use in 151,000 people. That's 50,000 of the vets were able to do something in reducing opioids, whether that was get off of them all or reduce it significantly, which is huge. But that should also tell you where it comes in your lifestyle. Like, you should want chiropractic on a regular basis just to get your spine checked. And opioids are very powerful, right? And so if I'm able to, chiropractic in the sense is able to get you to a point where you can take out a powerful medicine out of what you need to take, that's a win. That's a big win. It's a big win for your body in all those things. Remember, all the chemicals come in and you're going to have a negative impact on your cells. When you have nothing but just energetic food, energetic energy coming into your body, all that's going to happen is your cells are going to impact and get improved. There's not any kind of machinery in the world except the human body that can actually regenerate itself so efficiently. And so if we start taking care of this body in the best way we know how, regeneration will happen. And it's glorious to hear. So with that, guys, I'm thanking you guys for being patient with me. Brian and Julie, you guys are my rock stars. I love it. Brian, text me sometime. I think you texted during, so I think you are correct in the answer. So that'll be good. You guys rock. I appreciate your patience with me not showing up last week. I was super consistent this year. We're getting close to my 100th episode. So pretty cool. 4,000, over 4,000 downloads and podcasts. And we're getting up there in the Rumble and the YouTube stuff. So keep pushing it out there. If you know people that would be interested in this kind of topic, let me know. Still trying to do it organic. I love it. So I count on you guys to push it, right? I showed a patient today. She has Rumble. So I was like, oh, get on my channel. So that was really cool. So that was my 69th person. But I keep gaining one each time. And if 1% works, then each time I do this, if I get one person, that's going to be amazing stuff. So with that said, you guys enjoy your night. Have a great week. And take some of this to heart. It'll be good. And if you have any other topics, let me know. Reach out and let me know. All right. Have a great night.